My husband was reborn and suddenly demanded a divorce. I smiled faintly and nodded on one condition: he must leave with nothing. He sneered and agreed without hesitation. As if a few million were worth his fight. After signing the divorce papers, he went to the lottery shop with a few hundred yuan handed over by his mother. He placed the same bet 200 times on the winning numbers from his previous life. When he came out of the shop, his bearing had somehow changed. There was a faint echo of Jack Ma in his posture. What he didn't know was that shortly after he left, I went to the same shop and placed 400 bets on the same numbers. In my last life he had had all my organs harvested. This life I returned from health or revenge. Last life. Valentina. You bitch, don't you dare take a single cent of my prize this time. My husband clenched his fists and flailed them through the air, shouting nonsense. All because I had just signed and thumbprinted the divorce agreement. The house was mine. The savings were his. Across the tea table he bawled, face flushed. I've had enough of your suffocating control. Enough of faking affection with you. I gave a bitter smile. Chidi actually turned meticulous care into suffocating control. I never begged him for fake affection. It seemed he'd stayed with me for the money. My silence had become the spark for his hysteria. Do you know how oppressed and sick I felt being with you all these years? He kept yelling. If I get another life, I will never let the one I love suffer an ounce of grievance. Never. Had his little pinky finger learning how to find a mistress? I could have died laughing. He tossed a few clothes into a suitcase, slammed the door, and left. I watched from the window as he hurried across the street into the lottery shop. The suitcase wheels seemed to be smoking from how fast he pulled them. When I asked the shop owner later, I learned Julian had placed a 200x multiple bet on one set of numbers. A reborn person's, but I wasn't going to miss that. I wouldn't let that scumbag lie better than me. So I placed a 400x bet on the same combination. But for some reason that draw's winning numbers weren't the ones we chose. And I sat in front of the TV waiting for nothing. I lost 800 yuan. My husband lost 100 million. His dream of riches collapsed. He drank himself into ruin. The mistress drained his assets. Then ran off with everything. With nowhere left to go, my ex came crawling back to beg my forgiveness. I refused. And then, together with our daughter and my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law had me restrained. My organs were matched and parceled out to patients in need. The Clara family sold my organs for over 3 million. My shattered body was dumped in the wilderness. My soul hovered beside them. And only then did I learn that when my baby was born she'd been switched for the mistress's child. My poor daughter had been sold into the mountains by my mother-in-law. My spirit wouldn't rest. I swore vengeance on those inhuman beasts. When I opened my eyes again, I was back just before signing the divorce papers. 1 Valentina. Let's get a divorce. Julian slid a divorce agreement toward me with an ashamed look. The memory of my last life, how I cried to the heavens and received no answer, still haunted me with the same helpless despair. Seeing my eyes burning red, Julian mistook it for grief over loving him too much and hurried to console me. Valentina. Don't be like this. I'm a rotten man. Not worth your tears. You can find someone far better. Then it hit me, I'd been reborn. I took the divorce papers, flipped through them, and tossed them back. You leave with nothing, or there's no deal. Valentina. Don't be unreasonable. You're the unreasonable one. You propose divorce. Then you leave with nothing. I stood my ground. You weren't like this in the last life. You weren't this kind of person. Julian had slipped up and hastily coughed to cover it. I looked at him with contempt. What kind of person am I? Then? His face went red as he shouted. Our marital property is shared half and half. Marital property? I slammed my fist on the table. The cups clinked and rattled. Tell me. How much have you ever earned for this family? I won 30,000 in the lottery. You spent over 500,000 on tickets and called 30,000 earning money. Well, there's also our house. Please, this house was left to me by my mother. It's premarital property. Don't you know that? Julian stopped pretending. I don't care. It's half and half. I sneered. I don't care either. If you don't leave empty-handed, I won't sign. Then every penny you earn from now on will count as marital property. Julian hopped like a cat with its tail stepped on. Valentina. I beg you to be kind. Julian, I advise you to be sensible. I don't even want a divorce if you don't want one. Fine. As long as I wasn't desperate. There would always be someone more desperate than me. You're about to become a man worth hundreds of millions, yet you're arguing about pocket change? How embarrassing. Seeing my resolve, Julian finally backed down. He didn't want to split his future billions with me. Even if I leave with nothing, I'll still divorce you. With that, he stood to go to the print shop and have a new divorce agreement typed. Wait. I called after him. Julian sneered. Heh. Valentina, are you regretting it? Looking at his bitter, venomous face, I wanted to slap myself for ever having chosen him. How blind had I been? I rolled my eyes. Your divorce papers don't say who gets custody of our daughter. Clara didn't hesitate. I'll stay with Mom. I don't want that. Stay with your father. Just like in the last life. She chose him without wavering. Apparently that little treacherous brat already knew the truth about her origins. She'd been plotting to take my assets away from me. I wouldn't fall into the same trap twice. Father and daughter both froze for a moment, thinking about the imminent jackpot. They truly looked down on my modest assets. Julian hurried downstairs and printed a new agreement. I adopted a businesslike tone. Transfer every penny in all your bank cards to me. Julian, who had planned to sign then renege, froze then. For the promise of imminent wealth. He gritted his teeth and complied. After 1.56 million was transferred to my account, I looked at Julian again. Now transfer your WeChat and Alipay balances. Valentina, you really want everything? Julian couldn't keep his composure. I stared at him like he was an idiot. Do you know what leaving with nothing means? It means you don't get to take a single cent. Another 241,000 arrived. I left him not even a penny when I made the transfers. Just as Julian, seething, demanded I sign. I asked to inspect all his financial transactions. He flipped the table. Impossible, absolutely impossible. But the money was already in hand. Emboldened, I said calmly, if you won't let me check, I won't sign. He finally unclenched his fists. Reset to zero. Reset to zero. The cold, mechanical sound of the calculator echoed through the warm living room. The assets you transferred to an unknown destination total 1.66 million. I want you to sign an IOU. Julian was on the brink of collapse. But as long as that, 100 million, was still in play, I didn't believe he'd break dice with me. After Julian signed and stamped his fingerprint, I reluctantly signed the divorce agreement as he wished. My husband left with nothing, while our daughter stayed with him. From that moment on, our properties were to be kept separate. I met Julian at university. I was one of the three beauties of the school. He was the heartthrob of our department. We crossed paths countless times on campus. He was young, handsome, and carried an air of stubborn pride that left a lasting impression on me. He was quite the campus legend. And I knew enough about him to see he was a good guy. So, when he arranged a giant heart made of candles to confess his feelings, I didn't hesitate long before agreeing to be with him. We spent 3 blissful years together during our 4 years of college. Valentina, marriage is a lifetime commitment. You must be cautious. I fear Julian's intentions aren't pure. When I excitedly told my mom I was going to marry Julian, she wasn't happy at all. Instead, she frowned and warned me. Mom, what are you saying? I've graduated from college. I'm not a child anymore. I know how to judge right from wrong. I was a little angry. Not only did I not want our pure love to be tainted by worldly concerns, but my mom's reaction was exactly what Julian had predicted. Upon hearing that I planned to tell my mom about our relationship, Julian worriedly said, Valentina, with my background, I doubt your mom will accept me. And you're her only daughter, she's probably hoping you'll marry someone better. Julian came from a poor rural background. But I never thought that would be an obstacle in our love. I was certain. That's not true. My mom isn't the type to care about wealth, nor is she old-fashioned. But reality splashed cold water on my face. Though my mom didn't explicitly say Julian should find someone richer, she did think his family background was lacking. When I threatened to cut off all ties, my mom reluctantly gave in. In the end, I married Julian. Just as I had hoped. But little did I know, Despite my constant compromises. Our marriage only lasted 13 years. My thoughts returned to the present. This lifetime's Julian was no different from the previous one. He bragged about being a reborn soul, claiming he didn't want to suffer and that a beauty like me shouldn't be wasted. I responded non-committal lie. Yeah. Okay. Right. My sharp tongue didn't disgust me. But Julian seemed disappointed and stopped his clownish performance. Perhaps he knew that soon he would win the 100 million. And with that thought, he hastily threw some clothes into his suitcase. This time, I personally saw him and our daughter downstairs. Julian pulled out his phone and began making a call. Hello. Mom. Transfer me $1,000. I'm fine. Just some issues with my bank card. Why are you asking her? I'm divorced from her. Come on. No need to ask. I just don't want to be with her anymore. Stop asking. Alright. Can you transfer the money first? What? Where did all the money I sent you go? Julian's eyes were bloodshot. Probably because something amusing had just happened. I couldn't help but eavesdrop and heard him growling. 500. I need 500. TSK, SK. I'd seen the transfer records he made to his old mom. At least 400,000. Now. She couldn't even give him $1,000. What a gold digger. Only taking in. Never giving out. It seemed the transfer had gone through on WeChat. And Julian's face lit up. He rushed into the lottery store with a swagger. Dad. I'm coming with you. What are you doing coming with me? Stay here. His daughter was ordered to wait. Looking at Julian's back, she stomped her foot and muttered something I couldn't make out. No matter what number you buy this time, I'll be with you. Soon enough. Julian emerged from the lottery shop, his every movement exuding an air of confidence. He was no longer humble because his strength wouldn't allow it. He stood tall, glancing disdainfully at the second-hand suit I bought him. As if the Armani wasn't worthy of his billionaire aura. My parents, who had only modest assets, never allowed me to buy luxury brands. They preferred clothes that were comfortable and appropriate without wasting money. But Julian had a strong vanity. He feared that people would see him as a poor man just because of his clothes. He subtly hinted that I should buy him luxury suits. I couldn't understand why two pieces of fabric should cost tens of thousands of dollars. So, I bought him a decent second-hand Armani suit for $5,000. He complained about the second-hand purchase. But his hands were honest enough. He grabbed it and threw it on. As if he wanted to wear it to bed. Later, I learned that Lorelei decided to seduce him after seeing him in that expensive suit at a class reunion. Well. An overly sweet, sarcastic voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned and saw Lorelei's heavily powdered face. Her pregnant belly sticking out. And a victorious smile on her face. Valentina. Your charm's not all that. How come you can't even keep your own man in check? Lorelei sounded like a petty villain from a palace drama. I didn't respond to her question. But instead said. I just saw someone wearing a pair of open-toe sneakers. I asked why. And guess what she said? Lorelei was stunned for a moment. Playing the fool. What did she say? I grinned. She said she's a scavenger and likes other people's discarded trash. And guess what? She loves old shoes. Even Lorelei, as slow as she was, caught on immediately. Did you just call me an old shoe? No, I wasn't calling you that. I was calling both of you that. Before Lorelei could retort, I patted her shoulder and nodded toward the lottery store. Your old shoe's coming. Valentina, we're divorced. I'm warning you. Stop bothering me and my people. Seeing Lorelei's furious and defeated expression, Julian thought I was bullying her. I sneered. Julian, remember what you said today. From now on, whoever contacts the other first is the animal. Fine. We'll see about that. Julian declared vehemently. Watching the pink BMW roar away, I looked back at the lottery shop. This time, Julian probably won't pick that number again. Right? After all, he can be reborn. Morning. Felix. Here's the umbrella I borrowed last time. Felix was tidying the lottery shop. When he saw me, he hurried over. It's just an umbrella, keep it. Why are you returning it? This is tea my friend sent me. I don't drink much. So I brought it for you. You're such a kid, I haven't even finished the tea you gave me last time. Felix pushed the packet back politely. This is this year's new tea, try it. Felix. This time he didn't refuse and took it. Then, Madame Mosai. As if remembering something. Felix leaned in and lowered his voice. What's up with Julian this time? He normally plays 50 random tickets, 50 different combinations. This time he zeroed in on one set and put a 200x multiple on it. Thinking I might not understand. He explained. That means he only bought one possible combination. But he bought 200 tickets of it. Lottery's a bit of fun, you shouldn't gamble that big. Oh? Which numbers did he pick? I asked. Intrigued. Because this draw was unusual. Felix remembered the numbers clearly. When I heard them I froze. He'd once again doubled down on the same numbers from his previous life. Reborn. The so-called Jack Mara. The favored son of fate. So where exactly did Julian get reborn in? I scanned 800 yuan across. Felix. Buy me that 400x on the same numbers. Yeah. I just said Julian's being ridiculous, and you go even more ridiculous. Money doesn't grow on trees. You know. Why pick like that? It's fine. Felix. I'm just playing once. You two together have already put in 600 tickets, you could drain the prize pool. Good luck to you if that happens. Felix honestly didn't want me wasting my money. I promise. Felix. I'll only play once. After I insisted. Felix reluctantly issued the ticket. I couldn't let last life's outcome deviate. No matter which numbers Julian bet. I would mirror him with 400 tickets. My goal was to cause disruption. As Felix said, opportunities to empty the prize pool don't come to ordinary people twice. Since Julian replicated his previous choice exactly, shouldn't I also buy the winning numbers from my last life? I quietly scanned for yuan to Felix, and placed a bet on the exact combination. I'd sat in front of the TV waiting for last time. I only bought 2 tickets. Who knows if the flutter of a butterfly's wings might nudge history's wheel. Whatever, it was only for yuan. I'd buy it for fun. For such a small amount. Felix didn't try to talk me out of it. One draw time finally arrived. I had popcorn ready, and was parked in front of the TV well ahead. As the numbered balls tumbled out, one by one my heart pounded faster and faster. Thud. When the final ball fell and the set of numbers became clear. I tossed popcorn everywhere across the living room. I'd actually won. After sweeping up the popcorn, I calmed down. Unlike Julian. My first instinct after winning was not to show off. I wanted to get rich quietly and tell no one. But the tree does not stay still while the wind blows. Within minutes Felix's call came through. Hello. He cut in with that cracked voice of his. Valentina. Don't say anything yet, just listen. You won. 20 million. Ha 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 ha. My old man has finally seen a big prize hit in my shop. I'm worth it. You. After hanging up with Felix. I knew I couldn't stay low-key. The facts wouldn't allow it. Still. I told Felix he could publicize that a winning ticket had been sold at his shop. But not to say it was mine, especially don't tell Julian. We were already divorced. The next day Felix's shop hung a banner. Warm congratulations to a Xingtown lottery patron who won the first prizes at our shop, prize money 20. I subway tier 0. The announcement detonated across Xingtown. Felix's lottery business exploded overnight. Everyone wanted a piece of the luck. People queued to buy tickets in long lines. Pushing and shoving. Fights broke out over cutting in line, and the police had to be called to keep order. My phone rang. Julian. Hello. You bastard, what do you want? I snapped. Valentina. Who are you calling a bastard? We already agreed, whoever contacts the other first is the bastard. Has the great bastard already forgotten? Silence for 2 seconds. Then Julian tore off his last shred of restraint. Valentina. You can't divide marital property like this. No way. We signed the divorce papers in black and red ink and thumbprints. You can't change that on a whim. Julian went utterly shameless. If you agree, the agreement can be changed. No. Julian yet out a low sigh. Are you out of your mind? Why would I change a deal that makes you leave with nothing? Julian's voice trembled as if clutching at a lifeline. You said you didn't want a divorce, then we won't divorce. I was wrong. Valentina, please forgive me. I was speechless, and alarm bells started ringing in my head. Julian's current frenzy looked dangerously like the last life. Me, I've already hired a lawyer to sue for divorce. Don't make me despise you. Julian. Julian, Valentina. Don't be shameless. Seeing I was resolute, Julian finally ripped off his mask of false remorse. Click before he could say more I hung up. He called again. I blocked him. Ding. A message on WeChat. Julian, Valentina. Don't forget our daughter is still with me. Me, Julian. Are you still a man? Using our daughter to threaten me? Julian, Valentina. The division of joint property is wrong. I should have half. Transfer me 4-0 immediately, not a cent less. Me, sorry. We already signed the divorce agreement. Image. Image. To prevent me from claiming the lottery prize, Julian even timestamped the agreement to the exact second. Meaning any wealth acquired after 94,327 yesterday belongs to whoever earned it. We both signed and stamped our red thumbprints. I have to admit this trick of his was crafty. Julian, I think you don't care about our daughter at all. A corner of my mouth lifted. I fool who use his own daughter to threaten others, what an idiot. Me, Julian. She's your daughter too. How could you do that? Julian, I don't care. I want money. Me, Julian. I will not allow you to hurt our daughter. After I sent that message, Julian didn't reply. But I knew he wouldn't let this go quietly. I called the moving company directly, sold off all the furniture that could be sold. And within less than 2 hours, the house was left completely empty. I then boarded the high-speed train to the provincial capital, determined to collect my prize money and avoid any more complications. Mom. Dad didn't win the lottery. He smashed everything in the house. And he hit me. Image attached. A message from my daughter appeared on my phone. In the picture, half of her face was swollen and bruised. Blood dripped from the corner of her mouth, and clear fingerprints were visible on her face. It was obvious she had been hit. Julian and that ungrateful woman put on an act. And Julian, fearing I wouldn't believe it, made the pain look real. The enemy's righteousness in abandoning family felt strangely satisfying. How could Julian do this? Clara, Mom, please don't divorce Dad. Just think of me. No way. A man who cheats and abuses is someone I have to divorce. Clara, then can you at least give him half of the assets? Otherwise, he'll keep hitting me. This isn't about him hitting you. It's about him trying to ruin my life. My heart is breaking for you. Clara, so, are you agreeing to give him half of the property? Want money? No way. I'm calling the police to arrest him. Clara went silent. I had installed hidden cameras in every corner of the house, even outside the door. That afternoon, the monitoring system alerted me to movement. I opened the footage and saw Julian and our daughter returning, dragging their luggage behind them. It looked like the mistress' plan to flee had been moved up. I input the password but found I couldn't unlock the door. Julian began knocking. And when there was no response, he shouted, Valentina, open the door. I know you're in there. Bang, bang, bang. When there was still no answer, his knocking turned into banging. And finally, it became an all-out attempt to break down the door. Just as the tools were being set up to break the lock, the police arrived. Apparently, hadn't felt outside. The neighbors had heard such a ruckus and thought the neighborhood was under attack by a gang. So they called the police. This is my house, officer. Julian quickly explained. The officer looked at him suspiciously. Then why don't you even know your own home's password? Julian stammered. I had an argument with my wife, and in a fit of rage, she changed the password. The officer raised an eyebrow. How can you prove you're the rightful owner of this house? I've always lived here. The officer gave him a withering look. That's not much of a proof, is it? Eventually. The officer called the property management and got my details. Hello. Is this Mrs. Valentina? Yes, at 82. This is Valentina speaking. Julian said he's your husband and is locked out of the house. He wants to break in. I'd like to ask if you consented to this? Of course I didn't agree. Officer, I'm in the process of divorcing him. This house is my premarital property. and he has no right to break in. The officer put the call on speaker. And Julian, overhearing what I said, was immediately displeased. Valentina, I already apologized. Why can't you just let that little thing go? Heh. Little thing? If cheating and having a mistress is a little thing, then what's a big thing? Stop talking. I'm not letting you in my house. Mom, please stop being unreasonable. Dad already admitted his mistake. Clara. Shut up. The moment you chose him. You're no longer my daughter. Thank you for your professionalism. Officer. I hung up the phone. The officer looked at Julian with disdain. Without Valentina's consent, you can't destroy her locks. Julian squatted on the ground, upset. What do you mean? I can't even enter my own home? After the officer left, Julian picked up a power drill and began attacking the door lock. The officer couldn't stay here forever just to stop him from breaking in. I didn't have high hopes that this lock would stop someone with no boundaries like Julian. Even calling the police wasn't very effective, since we weren't officially divorced yet. To them, it was just a domestic issue, so they wouldn't really take further action. The lock soon broke. And when Julian and his daughter barged in, they were dumbfounded. Dad, didn't we get robbed or something? Julian was too stunned to respond. The empty room had nothing left but the floor tiles. And the most insane thing was that even the toilet in the bathroom had been dismantled. Clara, urgently needing to use the restroom, had no choice but to squat over the hole in the floor. When she couldn't find toilet paper, she called out, Dad, can you get me some toilet paper? Julian searched the whole house but couldn't find any. His face dark and as he grumbled, just wash yourself with water. The situation got worse. There was no running water in the house either. Dad, can you go buy a pack of toilet paper? Julian glared at her. Buy a pack? I only have 8 yuan left. Clara, and just buy a single pack. Soon, have it by 2. Julian returned with a pack of toilet paper, 2 premium ham sausages, and 2 steamed buns. I knew this was the limit of the 8 yuan. Father and daughter sat on the floor and began their dinner. Dad, where do you think Mom went? Clara chewed on a steamed bun with ham and mumbled her question. Julian's face darkened. She said she went back to her hometown. He didn't finish the sentence, as he suddenly realized a truth he didn't want to believe. His teeth clenched, and his jaw muscles twitched. From their conversation, I had assumed Mom was referring to me, but it turned out they were talking about Lorelei. Dad, we have no money left. After this meal, we won't have anything for the next. Julian squinted his eyes. Don't worry. I don't believe Valentina, that bitch, is really that heartless. If you beg her, I don't believe she'll just let her daughter starve. Clara sneered. I've called her Mom for all these years. She can't just ignore me. Clara started playing with her phone. And before long, I received another message. Clara, Mom, Dad hit me again. How could he do this? Is this what a father does? Clara, Mom, where are you? Can I come to find you? No. Clara, Mom is on a trip right now. Clara, Mom, can you send me some money? You know Dad doesn't have a single penny left. Oh, why didn't you say so earlier? All my money is tied up in a fixed investment product. After paying for the tour group, I only have a few hundred left. Clara, Mom, can't you sell that investment? The investment is locked. I can't redeem it. I'll have to wait 6 months to get it back. Sorry. There's nothing I can do. When Julian saw my message, he was so angry he nearly threw Clara's phone. Since he couldn't get money from me, Julian turned his attention to his mother. Hello, Mom. For safety's sake, I spent 6 Tharu on hiring a male and female bodyguard from a security company to accompany me and ensure my safety. 20 diffusers. The 2 of them stayed close by as we arrived at the provincial capital's lottery center. I was decked out in sunglasses, a mask, and I had everything needed for claiming the prize. From ticket verification and information checks to tax paperwork and finalizing the bank transfer. It took a full 2 hours to sort everything out. When the information about the 16 million yuan transfer appeared on my phone, I breathed a sigh of relief. At this point, I hadn't yet achieved financial freedom. In my past life, On September 25th, the military launched a Dongfeng Express missile near Hawaii. This strike didn't just intimidate countries with ill intentions. It also sparked a stock market frenzy, with stock indexes climbing wildly until October 8th. As a seize and retail investor, I had been duped into opening a stock account 10 years ago. But it was mostly losses and occasional break-even moments. Most of the time, I was left holding the bag, waiting for a chance to break even. But in this life, I wouldn't miss the opportunity. I originally had about 5 million yuan in savings. And adding this 16 million yuan brought my total to 21 million, all of which I invested in the stock market. With leverage, I even bought 56 million yuan worth of stocks. Everything was ready, just waiting for the east wind. The 2 bodyguards escorted me back to Qingtown before leaving. I gave them 2,000 yuan for their return travel to the provincial capital, with the extra as a tip for their hard work. After checking into the hotel closest to the police station, I opened the security cameras at home. By now, the apartment had been stuffed with 3 mattresses, bedding, and pillows. When I saw an elderly woman appear on the camera, my hair stood on end, and my body instinctively shuddered. This woman was my mother-in-law, who had been involved in dozens of child and woman trafficking cases in my past life, truly a criminal of the highest order. In that life, Julian, life under her and his younger sister's influence, had kept me captive and sold every organ I had that could be sold. But her crimes were only spoken of, with no solid evidence. After a tiring day, my eyelids grew heavy, and I soon drifted to sleep. Knock, knock, knock. The door was being pounded. Who is it? Room service. A deep, hoarse voice slipped through the wooden door, and I immediately froze in place. I recognized that voice too well. It was my sister-in-law. This wasn't room service. This was death service. I quickly locked the safety chain and dialed the police. After a while of silence, the knocking grew more forceful. Don't bother cleaning the room. I tried to steady my shaking hands, but my voice betrayed my panic. Valentina, you bitch. Open the door. Julian roared. Open the door. Open the door. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law pounded on the door, shouting. Bang, bang, bang. Each blow felt like a hammer to my heart. I was beyond frantic. The helplessness I'd felt lying on a cold hospital bed in my past life returned, threatening to overwhelm me. Clara grabbed the cleaning lady's master key and handed it to Julian. Dad, use this to open the door. Click. The lock turned, but it only opened slightly, blocked by the security chain. Julian's twisted face appeared in the gap, and when he saw me slumped on the floor, his eyes immediately gleamed with greed. You bitch. Open the door. How dare you see another man behind my back? Open the door. Filthy whore. Let me show you what happens. What are we doing wrong? What kind of shameful daughter-in-law do we have? Woo woo woo. My mother-in-law wailed as she slapped her thighs. You slut. My brother marrying you was a disaster. You damn. My sister-in-law spat filthy insults. Clara chimed in. Mom, petting Klosovla obsession. How can you do this? Do you have no shame? Do you think of Dad or me at all? This family was trying to rationalize their illegal actions, trying to break my door under the pretense of catching me in an affair. Stop. A deep, authoritative voice echoed down the hallway, cutting off the chaos. 2 uniformed officers hurried toward us. A middle-aged officer, about 35 years old, looked at Julian's family. What's going on here? When he saw Julian's face, his eyes flashed with something sharp. My mother-in-law, upon seeing the police, was startled, then began crying. Officer, you have to help us. Our daughter-in-law is having an affair with a man in this hotel. That's a lie. I'm not. I rushed to explain to the officer. Shut up, you slut. If you're innocent, open the door and let us see. Yeah. If you've got nothing to hide, just open the door. My sister-in-law demanded. I refused to open the door. Why should I? I've already filed for divorce from Julian. Don't come here trying to scam me. Julian snarled. As long as we're not divorced, you're still my wife. Exactly. Stop. Stop. The middle-aged officer looked a little exasperated. Who's Valentina? The younger officer asked, his eyes scanning us all. It's me, officer, I said quickly. I've already signed the divorce agreement with Julian. And we're in the process of suing for divorce. They have no right to interfere with my personal freedom. For a moment, I thought the middle-aged officer looked strangely familiar. The younger officer glanced at Clara's agitated family and then at me, his eyes showing a flicker of barely perceptible hostility. Valentina, this is obviously a domestic dispute. Don't you think you're wasting police resources? I frowned, about to retort when the middle-aged officer cut in. Wesley, you're wrong. Valentina has every right to call the police if she feels her safety is threatened. Since she signed a divorce agreement, why is this family still hounding her? The younger officer rebutted, looked upset. He responded begrudgingly. Well, Valentina, could I see your divorce agreement? Please wait a moment. I turned to retrieve the document from the living room and handed it to the young officer. Unexpectedly, his hand was so clumsy that he dropped the document on the floor. Quick as a flash, Julian lunged to grab it. My mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and Clara immediately joined in, all reaching for it. The document was soon ripped to shreds in their hands. Afraid it could be repaired, they stuffed the scraps into their mouths. The young officer was not only slow with his hands but also slow to react. He didn't even act faster than my mother-in-law. He shouted, "What are you doing? Don't grab!" But he did nothing to stop them. The middle-aged officer acted immediately, trying to snatch back the paper, but only retrieved a small piece. He shouted angrily, "Stop it! Everyone, stop!" But Clara's family ignored him, their mouths fast as they devoured the shredded paper. I stared at the young officer coldly and said, "Officer, don't you think you're showing bias? The divorce agreement clearly states Julian is to leave with nothing. How are you going to compensate me?" The young officer's eyes shifted uncomfortably. "Sorry, Valentina. I didn't mean to drop it. Besides, you let go before I even had it in my hands. Wesley, I will report your performance exactly as it happened. My evaluation of you is poor. Before you even became a police officer, you've already started tarnishing the police force." The middle-aged officer scolded coldly. With his wealth of experience, he could easily spot the young officer's mistake. "No." Before the young officer could speak, his sister-in-law jumped out to protest, as though someone was digging up her ancestor's grave. Seeing her trembling with agitation, it was clear to anyone who knew her that she was playing the role of the victim. To the unaware, one might think she was the young officer's mother. "Comrade police, this is our personal matter. It has nothing to do with this young officer." The sister-in-law immediately tried to deflect. At that moment, my mother-in-law, surprisingly, became reasonable. "Comrade police, this is all a misunderstanding. We shouldn't have bothered Valentina. And we'll leave now." The sister-in-law exchanged looks with Clara's family members, and with satisfaction, they left. Their goal had already been achieved. My property would be split in half. iPhone. I need to use the restroom." The young officer quickly followed the Clara family members downstairs. The middle-aged officer watched him disappear before turning his gaze back to me. "Ms. Valentina, this is your divorce agreement. I'm sorry I couldn't protect it." However, when his eyes landed on the words on the paper, the officer's expression froze for a moment. He couldn't help but twitch his mouth a few times. When he looked back at me, there was a hint of admiration. The paper he handed me was half of a document. With the bold words "after my rebirth," I left the door open for the human traffickers. What a joke. The young officer clearly sided with Clara's family, and he had no right to look at my divorce agreement. How could I just show it to him? The short story I had written in my free time at home. I had casually given them a draft I was reviewing. Who knew they would enjoy it so much? Seeing their plan succeed was quite laughable. If they liked it, I still had several copies. I raised my hand and turned off the body cam. The middle-aged officer reminded me. "Ms. Valentina, my name is Ethan. And the officer with me is Wesley. If you're dissatisfied with our handling of the situation, You can file a complaint using this number. Okay. Thank you. Antiumanado well fi. What's your name again? My name is Ethan. Ma'am. Did you go to the first high school? The middle-aged officer paused for a long time. His eyes red, and as he said, yes, heading fulfilled my obsession. Miss Valentina. Thank you and your aunt for saving my life all those years ago. I owe you my life. It's really you, These years. I felt something choking in my throat, and I couldn't say another word. Hot tears fell drop by drop. An extra story about Julian and Ethan is at the end. After watching Ethan leave, I immediately called the provincial security company. A lesson learned: I wouldn't let Clara's family have another chance to harm me. The night passed in silence, and dawn soon arrived. After contacting the security company, I learned that the new guards were already waiting at my room door. I opened the door and saw 2 men and 2 women. They were all sharp and well trained. And upon closer inspection, I noticed that the man and woman from the previous day were among them. I had them switched to a 3-person room, with 2 female bodyguards staying with me, and 2 male bodyguards in the next room. Our group then went to the People's Hospital. We did 3 paternity tests. 1 for Clara and me, 1 for Julian and Clara, and 1 for Julian and me. To my surprise, Clara was indeed Julian's daughter, so we didn't need the paternity test for us. I packed the results for Clara and me, and Julian and me, and sent them to my home address with the label for Valentina. The next morning, Julian received the proof. He didn't care if I had personally opened it. He tore into the package and looked at the documents. When he saw that Clara wasn't my biological daughter, he smiled with satisfaction. But when he saw that neither Clara, who was actually me, or he was biologically related, his smile froze, then cracked open into an angry scowl. My mother-in-law also trembled with rage, but she stayed relatively calm. Julian wanted to go pick up his daughter from school, but his wife stopped him. The most important thing now is to sue Valentina and get her money. Later, I learned through the replay that when they received the court summons, they immediately contacted Wesley, the son of the sister-in-law, to find out where I was staying. Under the guise of catching me in the act, they barged into my room, tore up my divorce agreement, and then calmly prepared for the lawsuit, intending to claim half of my assets. I had thought it would be difficult for them to trick me into opening the door, but they succeeded easily when I handed Wesley the divorce agreement without any second thought. They went through the motions, thinking I would be fooled. I messaged Julian on WeChat to confront him. Me, Julian. I never thought you could be this shameless. You've created this whole scene just to destroy the divorce agreement in my hands, haven't you? Julian, Valentina. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Me, Henph. Even without the divorce agreement, I'm divorcing you. Julian, I know you're anxious, but calm down. Me, did you receive the paternity test results from the DNA center? I warn you. Tampering with my evidence is illegal. Julian, you crazy woman. I can't understand a word you're saying. Me, just wait for it. In the surveillance footage, I saw Julian's smug smile after his scheme succeeded. But then, as though he'd remembered something, his face dark, and again perhaps he had just realized that Clara wasn't really his daughter. The day of the court hearing arrived. When my lawyer and I arrived at the courtroom, Julian was already seated confidently in the defendant's chair, with the rest of Clara's family behind him in the spectators' seats. You bitch. From today on, the Clara family has no place for a promiscuous wife like you. My mother-in-law's sharp tongue and hateful face were unbearable, as if she thought cursing me in court would win them the case. How did Julian marry someone like you? Why don't you just die? The sister-in-law, though sharp-faced, tried to act all righteous. Bitch. Silence. Silence. My mother-in-law tried to speak again, but was interrupted by the judge. During the investigation phase, when I presented the divorce agreement and the video evidence of me signing it on my phone, Clara's family members were left dumbfounded. Julian's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. We tore up her divorce agreement. This one must be fake. Fake. Her divorce agreement is definitely fake. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law couldn't sit still anymore. They began shouting in high-pitched voices. Clang. Silence. The judge turned to Julian and sternly said, "Defendant, if you continue disrupting the court's proceedings, I will handle it according to court rules." On my side, I presented strong evidence, while Julian had nothing to show. During the court debate, our lawyer wielded the evidence I provided, easily defeating the opposing lawyer. It felt like watching a fully equipped Diane Wei effortlessly crush a stationary Liu, and Julian's side had no chance. The judge attempted to mediate, but I firmly rejected any compromise. In the end, the judge declared the mediation invalid and ruled for a divorce, with Julian leaving with nothing and the daughter awarded to him. When the verdict was read, Clara's family burst into tears and began causing a scene right in the courtroom. The judge, unable to bear it any longer, had them ejected. "You bitch. Don't leave. You filthy whore. Where do you think you're going? You think you can run off with our money?" As I descended the first 2 steps outside the court, Clara's family immediately surrounded me, intending to use force. But before they could reach my 1.5-meter range, my bodyguard swiftly took them down. How could I pass up such an opportunity? Slap. 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 I swung my arm wide and gave Julian and my sister-in-law over a dozen resounding slaps. "Do you think you can get away with this?" Disputing the judge's ruling and causing a scene at the courthouse? With their guilty conscience and having just been ejected from court, they quickly realized they had no chance against my towering bodyguards. Defeated, they abandoned all pretense and slunk away, while I and my bodyguard strode off with confidence. A National Day holiday passed in the blink of an eye. On October 8th, I sold off all my stocks in the open market. The stock holdings worth over 90 million yuan paid off my 36 million yuan loan, leaving me with 54 million yuan. Looking at my large, imposing bodyguards, who cost 120,000 yuan a month, I realized they would eat up 1.44 million yuan annually, not to mention the living expenses. I couldn't help but lament. Financial freedom is still a long way off. Thankfully, I had that small venture in Guangxi media during the new year that brought in a decent return. "Mom, what do we do next?" Back at my house, Julian couldn't hold his frustration any longer and asked my mother-in-law. "Valentina's gone and hired bodyguards. Selling her now is almost impossible." My mother-in-law's eyes narrowed. "But we still have that little bastard. Damn Lorelei. That bitch dared to put a green hat on me. When I find her, I'll make her pay." Bro. Stop with the useless talk. Are you going to keep this little bastard? What's there to keep? It's not my kid. I'll just take back some interest." The next day, Clara, still attending school, was brought back home. She was immediately restrained and subjected to blood tests, HLA typing, lymphocyte matching, and more. Everything I endured in my past life, she would now experience. In my previous life, I drank the warm milk my daughter handed me, praising her for being so grown-up and thoughtful. Little did I know, mere minutes later, I would pass out. When I woke up, I found myself lying on that cold, sterile operating table. My heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, corneas, small intestines, bone marrow, skin, Hadenfaffelbreitsterchen, and blood vessels, all of them were in demand. When I heard I had generated 3.8 million yuan in income for their family, Clara excitedly praised me as a useful person. She sarcastically commented, "Others are one fish. 3 meals. This woman is one person. 10 uses." I wonder, when one person, 10 uses, became herself, did she still think she was a useful person? That night, Clara was taken to her sister-in-law's husband's illegal clinic. 4 went in, but only 3 came out. Julian spent the next few days vomiting after every meal. Finally, heading for Selby. After recovering some strength, I sent him a message. "Julian, the DNA testing center called me. They made a mistake and mixed up our DNA profiles. Don't worry. They redid the test. And Clara is your daughter. Image. Julian, right in a daze, walked out of the house. When he reappeared, he was holding a butcher's knife. My private investigator had already gathered all the evidence on Kazan and my sister-in-law. And Wesley knew about his parents' dealings, even warning them on several occasions. I packaged all the evidence and sent it to Ethan. The next morning, when I woke up, I saw two breaking news stories trending. Xinjiang City Metropolitan News. A major illegal organ transplant operation was busted, the criminals heartless. None of the donors survived. An utterly gruesome scene. Sources revealed that the operation was set up by a married couple, and their son used his position to cover for them. Shocking. A man kills his mother and sister because of a minor girl. The heavy clouds hanging over me finally lifted, and the bright sun shone again. I had avenged my death in the past life, but instead of feeling satisfaction, all I felt was confusion. I want to see my daughter, I said softly. Ethan replied. Don't worry. I'm here. Ethan's side story. My name is Ethan. When I was in 6th grade, my parents died in a car accident. My grandmother took all their compensation money under the guise of guardianship. She was already biased toward my uncle's family. And with my parents gone, she became even worse. My cousins got to eat meat, while my sister and I could only eat steamed buns and vegetables. Grandma said vegetables were nutritious, but eating only vegetables made both of us skinny and unhealthy. In my 2nd year of middle school, my sister was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. When my grandmother heard that the treatment would cost 300 yuan, she didn't hesitate for a second to refuse to treat my sister. I kowtowed to her, my forehead bleeding, but her heart was as hard as stone, colder than a stranger. I had no choice but to kneel outside the hospital, hoping that they might take pity on my sister, the only family I had left. But the hospital was busy treating people who could pay, while I, an orphan with no power, was always chased away by security. This was the 3rd day I had spent kneeling at the hospital gate. I didn't believe they had no sense of medical ethics. But I overestimated them. Without money, no doctor was willing to treat my sister. At my most desperate moment, I saw a beautiful aunt with a girl who looked just as beautiful. They looked like angels from heaven, graceful and kind. And I could see pure goodness in their eyes. The aunt said everything would be all right and promised to pay for my sister's treatment. I didn't know how to thank them, only bowing repeatedly. The aunt and the girl stopped me, saying it was fate that they helped me. I promised I would repay them and even do it tenfold. The aunt smiled and gently patted my head. If you truly want to repay me, take good care of your sister. I donated my bone marrow to my sister, and she recovered. The money auntie gave me was still over 100. I called her to say I wanted to return it, but she refused. She said this was for me and my sister's living expenses, and that no one else should get a penny. Grandma and my uncle asked me to transfer the money to them, but I refused. They even wanted to harm my sister. I went to the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife, and told them that if they dared to touch my sister, I would kill them. From that moment on, neither my grandma or my uncle ever troubled me again. When I called auntie to thank her, I learned that Valentina wanted to attend the first high school. I took care of Chloe for a year, and when I returned to school, it was just in time to be in the same year as Valentina. I studied day and night, and in the end, I managed to get into the first high school. I didn't tell auntie or Valentina. I only quietly observed her from the shadows, protecting her. One time, when Valentina was returning home for a break and auntie couldn't pick her up, Valentina had to walk home alone. She was so beautiful that when a group of young men with tattooed arms noticed her, they followed her into an alley. They were about to make a move when I stopped them, and Valentina walked home without a single disturbance while I was surrounded and beaten. A police officer arrived just in time to stop them from continuing. Although I was bruised and battered, I was happy. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, I could repay auntie and Valentina for their kindness. Valentina was so smart and I had to work twice as hard just to keep up with her. In the end, I succeeded and got into the same university as her. I silently guarded her from a distance, watching as she became the school beauty, seeing her fall in love with Julian, and eventually, walking down the aisle into marriage. When Valentina had her own protector and a happy family, I quietly left. She no longer needed me to guard her. 2 years after graduation, Auntie passed away from terminal cancer. Valentina cried her heart out. And I cried too. My heart breaking. Valentina didn't recognize me, and thought I was just a relative. And next time I saw Valentina was 11 years later. She was cornered by Julian and his family in a hotel room. The anger almost clouded my judgment. No, I had to stay calm. I needed to protect her as much as I could, using my identity. Wesley was definitely connected to the Clara family. Or else he wouldn't have sided with them right from the start. When I saw the face of the person behind the door, I froze for a moment. She didn't recognize me. Of course. She hadn't seen me since I was 14. After that, I had always stayed in the shadows, never disturbing her. The mixture of anger, excitement, and heartbreak angled in my chest like a mess of unraveled threads, clouding my reason. So much so that when Wesley made an improper demand, I didn't stop him right away. The Clara family was so shameless. They actually tore up the divorce agreement. I could hardly contain my hatred for them. I had expected Valentina to suffer. But when I saw the mockery in her eyes, I knew everything was going according to her plan. What had she gone through to become the person she was now? After the Clara family left, I spent another night patrolling outside the hotel. When she sent me the video evidence of what had happened, I wanted to destroy everyone who had harmed her. But I couldn't. This evidence would be enough to make them suffer in prison for the rest of their lives. I should have known. No one could protect Valentina like I did. For the rest of my life, I would continue to watch over her. Guess who I am? A voice asked from behind me as hands covered my eyes. This girl, even as a judge, was still so playful, showing no signs of the gravitas one would expect in court. Julian's extra. I am Julian. And I've been reborn. In my past life, I randomly chose 50 lottery tickets. And one of them won a $10 million prize. I kept it quiet and proposed a divorce to my wife, Valentina. The divorce agreement was signed. The savings would be mine. And the house would be hers. Our daughter chose to stay with her mother, which I had arranged. She would inherit Valentina's family wealth, making it a win-win situation. I went wise. I proudly told her that I had won the 10 million through my own abilities, and that she had nothing to do with it. But to my surprise, she said she was entitled to half of it. How could that be? The money was mine. I never imagined that Valentina, that shameless woman, would sue me. She claimed that the lottery tickets were purchased during our marriage, so they were considered joint property. Damn it. My prize was claimed after the divorce agreement was signed. I wondered if the judge had been bribed by Valentina, as she seemed to be getting favored. It was infuriating. I had to share $4 million of my hard-earned $8 million after taxes with her. But whatever. Even if she took $4 million, I still had plenty left, enough for me and Lorelai to enjoy for a while. Besides, with my luck, I'd win again. Valentina, that bitch, would only fall further behind me. I had to up my game and increase my bet. If I had bet 10 times the amount last time, this time the prize would be 100 million. I haven't won in several rounds now. Is my luck running out? No, it's just that I haven't bought enough. I'll buy more next time. Time flew by. And 6 months passed. Lorelai gave me a beautiful baby boy. And I loved her more and more. Thinking about the hardships she had endured for the past 13 years, I slapped myself hard in the face. I wasn't a good man. Lorelai cried, saying I didn't love her. But I wasn't guilty. She said that if I loved her, I should let her manage the money. Without hesitation, I transferred the remaining £200 into her account. How is there only 200,000 left? I must have spent a lot on the lottery tickets recently. Tonight, Lorelai didn't come home. I began to worry. What if something happened to her? I tried calling, but she didn't answer. I called her mother's house, and they didn't know either. I called the police, but after several days, there was still no news. A few days later, my mother-in-law called, crying. Only then did I learn that Lorelai and the child had been kidnapped. My poor wife gave all her money to the kidnappers, but they still killed her. I didn't even get to see their bodies. Just 2 urns. How unfair life is to me. now, penniless. I spent the last few hundred in my account. And I panicked. Because the lease on Lorelai's apartment was about to expire. I have no money. No house. Am I doomed to go back to Valentina's side? That damn woman. How could she say, a good horse doesn't return to the same grass? And refuse to forgive me? The rent on my place is expiring in a day. And in this vast world, there seems to be no place for me. Julian. Luckily, having fulfilled my inside, I still have a few bottles of Maudai at home. I drink one after another. And my worries only grow deeper. When I wake up again, I am stunned to realize I've been reborn. In this life, I will never let Lorelai suffer even the slightest injustice. With my memories from the previous life, I am certain I can become a billionaire. This vile woman, Valentina, wants me to leave empty-handed? Why is she reacting so differently this time? Even if I leave with nothing, I only need 400 yuan to start, just enough to become a billionaire. I must divorce her as soon as possible. You want me to transfer all my savings to you? Fine. I'll transfer it. And when I become a billionaire, it will be the moment you regret it the most. Why is my daughter sticking with me in this life? Why is everything arranged so differently? Damn. 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 Why didn't the lottery ticket win? This isn't fair. There must be some kind of conspiracy. Could it really be like Merlin said? That there's a mechanism to prevent reincarnation? When Lorelai heard that I was leaving with nothing, her expression darkened. And when she heard that I hadn't won the lottery, she vanished again. I called my mother-in-law. And she gave me the same response as in the previous life. How could this be? At this point, I finally understood. Lorelai didn't die in the previous life. She ran off with the money. This time, seeing I have nothing to offer, she just ran away. Damn you. You bastard. Looking back now, I realize Valentina wasn't that bad. At home, I do nothing but still get fed and clothed. While with Lorelai, I had to serve her every day. When I think about Lorelai's looks, they're no match for Valentina. It's like comparing heaven and earth, clouds and mud. How could I have been so blind to fall for that bitch Lorelai? No, I have to get Valentina back, my love. Damn it. This bitch, just like in the previous life, won't turn back. You don't want to drink? Then I'll make you drink the penalty wine. We've already torn up and eaten the divorce agreement. I'll see if you still want to divorce me. Today is the darkest moment of my life. The daughter I've raised for 13 years isn't even mine. Lorelai. You bitch. Just wait until I find you. I'll kill you. And Clara. That bastard. She doesn't even deserve to bear the by name. Your mother played me. And you. You little bastard. Don't think you'll have it easy. First, let's fight for half of Lu Yao's estate. Why is she still able to present a divorce agreement? I never thought she was such a cunning and treacherous woman. Looks like there's only one path left. Clara. Blame your mother for fooling me. I watched helplessly as Clara's organs were removed one by one. Until only a broken corpse remained. How could I not feel a pang of mercy? Why am I crying? My mother and sister always told me that even raising a dog for 13 years would create affection. So I shouldn't feel guilty. And now, today, I get a message from Lu Yao. Heaven help me. What have I done? I sent my own daughter into that hellhole, watching as they peeled her skin, extracted her organs, and tore her heart out. None of this is my fault. It was my mother and sister who made me do it. They are the true murderers of my daughter. How laughable. They even asked me if 1.2 million was enough. My daughter was killed by them. And they're arguing over the money? My skills were still too poor. My sister died from just a 120 knife wound. By the time it was my mother, my skills had improved a lot. She died from 400 cuts. I stabbed myself 36 times. I don't deserve to live in this world. Why? In my final moments, am I thinking of Valentina? It turns out that in the first life, I sent her to that hell, watching as they hollowed her out. I have lived 3 lives, with the memory of my first life carried over to the present third life, but no memory of the second life. I finally understood why Li Yao had no hesitation in agreeing to the divorce when I mentioned it. She must have memories of the second life when I sent her to that hellhole. We both had a chance to relive our lives. I still chose to hurt her. But she did not repeat her mistakes. Having lived 3 lives, she has never wronged me. In the first life, I betrayed her. In the second life, I harmed her. In the third life, I still tried to harm her. But I failed. In fact, I almost feel relieved that she succeeded. A demon like me, with the demon bloodline, really should not be alive in this world. In my past life, the Ryan family was pushed to the brink of bankruptcy because Ethan, Ryan's younger brother, secretly embezzled funds from the family business. As a result, I was forced to give up all my dowry to fill the gap. When I refused, my mother-in-law, Hannah, threatened to take her own life. And Ryan secretly stole the business ledger from the Melody family to use the funds for himself. In my fury, I argued with him, which caused a miscarriage. And during childbirth, I nearly lost my life due to complications. In a moment of desperation, the Ryan family, upon learning that I was carrying a daughter, refused to help me. Hannah sneered. "It's just a girl. What's the use in saving her? The money should go to your brother to settle the debts." Ryan's uncle added, "Melody's family only has her left. If she dies, all the inheritance will come to us." The Ryan family. That night, during the Lantern Festival, I bled to death on the birthing bed, taking the life of my child with me. But by the mercy of the heavens, I was reborn 3 days before that fateful night, before Ethan's creditors had come to claim their debts. I opened my eyes, still dazed. Around me was the familiar Melody family estate. Through the intricately carved wooden windows, the spring rain gently pattered. I lowered my hand to my swollen belly. I was 7 months pregnant. And as the baby shifted, it seemed to respond to my touch. A pang of emotion surged in my heart. I silently swore, "Child, this time, let out a low sigh. I will protect you. I won't let the Ethan family harm us again." Footsteps approached from outside, and Ryan entered, holding a box of pastries he had bought from the market. His face lit up with a smile. "Melody, I saw these osmanthus cakes, and they looked delicious. So I brought you some." His expression was full of concern, a stark contrast to the coldness I had seen in him before my death. I sneered inwardly but kept my expression neutral. Setting down the account book in my hands, I feigned worry. "Husband, I just received word from the business. There's a problem with the silk deal in the north. The buyer has breached the contract, and we need to cover a large sum of money, or we might face legal trouble." Ryan's smile faltered, and he quickly sat beside me. "How could this happen?" "Melody, don't worry. Is there any way to remedy it? If I can cover the deficit, we might still salvage the situation. But I've invested all my money into the business these past few years, and I can't liquidate anything right now. I fear this might cause even bigger issues." Ryan fell silent for a moment. His brow furrowed. He placed his hand over mine. "Don't worry. I'll help you raise the money. I won't let you suffer." I pretended to be moved, though my eyes caught the fleeting calculation in his gaze. In my past life, I had believed his sweet words, unaware that he had already conspired with his family to covet the Melody family fortune. Now that I was reborn, I would make sure the Ryan family reaped what they had sown. That evening, I returned with Ryan to the Ryan family's old estate. As soon as we stepped into the main hall, my mother-in-law, Hannah, immediately froze. She glanced at me with a sneer and sarcastically said, "I told you, a woman shouldn't be in business. Sooner or later, it will cause trouble. And look what's happened now, it's dragging down the entire Ryan family." I gently tugged at Ryan's sleeve, as if ashamed. He was about to speak in my defense. But Ethan, his younger brother, quickly cut in. "Sister-in-law, your actions have caused quite a stir. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. How do you plan to handle such a large sum of money? Don't look to me for help. I'm not even married yet. So where would I get the money?" Ryan's face showed some difficulty, and he glanced at me. I spoke softly. "If I can't cover the deficit, the authorities may hold me accountable." "Husband, I still carry your child." Hannah snorted. "You don't even know if it's a boy or a girl yet, so don't make excuses about the baby." "Melody, the Ryan family is just an ordinary family. We can't afford to deal with the mess you've caused. You'd better figure something out. Don't drag my son into this. I sneered inwardly. In my past life, when she forced me to give up my dowry to save Ethan, did she ever say anything to shirk responsibility? Now that I knew her true nature, I would turn the tables. I feigned panic. We've been married for so long. And if you don't help me now. Hannah suddenly slammed her hand on the table. You still have the nerve to say that. Ryan is your husband, how can you drag him down with you? I lowered my voice. But I really have no other options. If the Ryan family could help. Don't even think about it. The head of the Ryan family, Grandpa Ryan, suddenly spoke. If you insist on dragging Ryan down with you, then divorce. I lowered my head, hiding the faint smile on my lips. Divorce? That was exactly what I wanted. Divorce? I feigned shock, looking up at Ryan with teary eyes. Husband. We've been married for so long. And I carry your child. How can you talk about divorce? Ryan's gaze flickered, as if shaken by his grandfather's words. He took my hand and whispered, Melody, it's not that I'm heartless. But, Hannah quickly interrupted. Melody, don't blame us. Ryan finally managed to secure a job at the government office. If his future is ruined because of your problem, how can the Ryan family survive? Don't harm him. Tears welled up in my eyes. Husband, is this really how you feel? Ryan's lips moved as if to speak, but Hannah pulled him aside and whispered, Ryan, don't be soft-hearted. This woman is too troublesome. If we don't divorce her, all the debts from her business will fall on you. But she's pregnant. Ryan seemed to hesitate. It's still unclear whether it's a boy or a girl. If it's a boy, it's fine. But if it's a girl, what's the point of keeping her? You're young and capable. You'll have plenty of beautiful women in the future. Why waste time on her? They thought their words were subtle, but they didn't realize I had heard everything clearly. I laughed coldly in my heart but continued to look pitiful on the outside. Ryan hesitated for a moment but finally darkened his expression. He returned to me and said, Melody, let's find a midwife and check whether the baby is a boy or a girl. If it's a boy, your parents will surely help you through this. Isn't that right? I froze, my eyes misting with tears. It was happening again. Ethan took the opportunity to speak up. Sister-in-law, a boy is what really matters. If you can't do it, I can still help the Ryan family expand. If it doesn't work out, my brother can find someone who can give him a son. I coldly snorted inwardly. Ryan's hesitation wasn't because of me, but because of the wealth of the Melody family business. He had been like this in my past life, feigning deep affection while calculating in the background. Now that I knew it was a girl, I would use this to force him to reveal his true face. Husband, if it's a girl, would you really divorce me? I asked, my voice trembling. Ryan avoided my gaze and softly replied, Melody, when times are hard, we must look out for ourselves. You've been lonely all your life, so you should understand. The next day, we went to a clinic in the city. The Ryan family had specially arranged for an old midwife to check my pregnancy. After a brief examination, the midwife sighed. It's a girl. She added, but you two are young. There's no rush. You can try for more children in the future. Upon hearing this, Ryan's eyes flickered with a hint of relief, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. After returning from the medical hall, Ryan's attitude was as cold as frost. In the past, he would always be careful, assisting me with every move, fearful that any slight disturbance might harm the child in my womb. But today, he walked ahead with a proud gait, his steps dripping with disdain. When we reached the entrance of the Ryan family estate, he bent down to whisper a few words in Hannah's ear. A glimmer of triumph flashed in Hannah's eyes, and her lips twisted into a smile that nearly reached her ears. She turned to me, sizing me up from head to toe, then snorted coldly through her nose. Melody, I've always said your face is unlucky. And now it's clear you're a harbinger of disaster. You've caused the death of your parents. And now you want to drag down the Ryan family. Quickly, heading Hoffeldman session. Get a divorce from Ryan and spare us from your misfortune. Her words were like knives, cutting deep into the hidden pain in my heart. My parents had passed away early, and it was rumored that it was my fault because I had been too eager to play as a child, insisting that they take me out of the city to enjoy the spring, only to fall victim to a bandit attack. I have carried this guilt since childhood, and now the Ryan family uses it against me as a constant reminder. In my past life, I endured it all, hoping for peace. But all it did was escalate their cruelty. Now that I have been reborn, how could I let them humiliate me again? I lowered my head to hide my tears, biting my lip in silence. Mother-in-law. I called softly. Don't call me mother-in-law. I am not your mother-in-law. You owe mountains of debt, and the authorities are about to arrest you. Yet you still cling to my son and refuse to divorce, deliberately ruining the future of the Ryan family. As soon as she spoke, the servants and relatives who happened to be passing by turned their attention toward us, whispering and pointing fingers. I seized the moment to bow my head, pretending to be on the verge of breaking down. Many onlookers were visibly outraged, urging me to leave this heartless family as soon as possible. An elderly woman spoke up, if you truly wish to divorce, we must settle the details. Who will the child stay with? How will the alimony be divided? What will happen to the family fortune? Let us settle this now to avoid any entanglements in the future. Her words struck a chord in me. Hannah's face shifted slightly at the mention of this, and I could see her eyes calculating. After a brief pause, she clapped her hands and smiled. Good. Then let's settle everything today. That evening, Hannah gathered the Ryan family members in the main hall and invited a well-known scribe from the city to prepare the divorce documents. I sat alone in the hall, 7 months pregnant, facing the scrutinizing gazes of the entire Ryan family. Hannah sneered. Melody, don't say we are being cruel. Today, we are simply clarifying things to avoid further entanglements in the future. The Ryan family's intentions were crystal clear. Once Ryan and I divorce, my family business debts would no longer be his responsibility. The child in my womb would not be acknowledged by the Ryan family, nor would they contribute a single coin toward the child's upbringing. If I wanted to change the child's surname, they would not object. In short, after the divorce, neither the child nor I would have anything to do with the Ryan family. I spoke softly. You truly don't care about any marital bond? Hannah snorted. It's not that we lack compassion. It's that you are too outrageous. Pregnant and still causing trouble, leading to business losses. Who would want to take care of you? Ethan, standing by, chimed in. Sister-in-law. If I had accumulated such massive debts, I would never drag my family down. My parents have already done so much for me. How could I burden them further? But you, sister-in-law, you grew up without parents. I guess you don't understand what this means. Do you? Ryan shot him a glare, and Ethan fell silent, sulking. I looked at the faces of the assembled hypocrites and took the divorce papers handed to me by the scribe. In my heart, I thought, once I sign this document, my child and I will be free from the Ryan family's chains. 3 days later, in the bookshop next to the King County office, I sat across from Ryan, finalizing the divorce procedure. Hannah was with us, her face full of smug satisfaction. The scribe read aloud the terms of the divorce, and Ryan signed without hesitation, his movements swift and resolute. In a daze, I recalled the scene from my past life. Lying in childbirth, with the midwife desperately calling for him to help, only for him to coldly stand by, claiming that there was not enough money, abandoning me to my fate. At that moment, I didn't even have the strength to hold a pen. Now, his decisiveness was the same as it had been in my previous life. Once the documents were signed, I stood up slowly and walked out of the bookshop. The spring breeze brushed against my face, but I felt a chill in my heart. Hannah was supporting Ryan, but behind them followed a strange woman, probably in her early 20s, with delicate features and a slightly rounded belly, suggesting she was 4 or 5 months pregnant. Ryan furrowed his brow and whispered, "Mother, why did you bring her here?" Hannah beamed. "What's the harm in bringing her? Once you and Melody